Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
This is Basketball History 101 with Rick Loayza.
Welcome back to award-winning Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network. I am your host, Rick Loayza, and this is the podcast where we bring to life some of the forgotten stories from basketball history. We are bringing old school basketball to a new school audience. And today we bring you another entry into our occasional series on the lost teams of the ABA. Now, if you've listened to any of our previous episodes on this topic, then you know that the ABA only ever had 12 teams in all during their 9 years as a league. Now, 4 of those teams have ended up joining the NBA, and they are still playing today. And those 4 teams are the Brooklyn Nets, the Denver Nuggets, the Indiana Pacers, and the San Antonio Spurs. And that leaves 8 teams that had their heyday in the ABA and then disappeared. We wanted to cover the history of those teams so that we never forget those old ABA teams and the league that they were involved in. So, for today, the team that we are covering began their journey as the New Orleans Buccaneers. On paper, they had everything going for them. Their top scorer was Doug Moe, and he was an excellent player who should have been playing in the NBA, except that he was banned by the NBA for point shaving when he was in college. And he was not just accused of point shaving or fixing basketball games, he actually did it. He had been playing in Italy in order to make money since it was one of the few places that would let him play. So when the ABA was announced as a league, Moe knew he just had to join up. This was a chance to play professional basketball in the United States. And the ABA did not care that Moe got caught shaving points when he was in college. They had several players in their league that had been previously banned by the NBA. All the ABA really cared about was whether or not the guy could play. And Doug Moe could definitely play. The only thing was that he was already 29 years old by the time that the ABA started. He led the Buccaneers with 24 points per game, and right behind him was Jimmy Jones with 19 points per game. Jones was a 6-time ABA All-Star and then finished his career in the NBA with the Washington Bullets. Another top player on that team with the Buccaneers was point guard Larry Brown. Yes, that same Larry Brown who later coached the University of Kansas to an NCAA championship and the Detroit Pistons to an NBA championship. He is still the only coach in American history to win both the NCAA and NBA championships as a head coach. Anyway, Brown was 27 during that first year with the Buccaneers. At only 6 feet tall, he was considered too small for the NBA. So he played some AAU basketball to stay in shape and hopefully get his opportunity in the ABA. After a couple of years, that he decided to return to his old school, the University of North Carolina, and he took a position as an assistant coach. But he was only 25 years old when he entered the coaching ranks and could still outplay most of his players. When the ABA was announced, he left his position as an assistant coach with North Carolina and joined up with the new team in New Orleans to play with this upstart league that was featuring a red, white, and blue basketball and a three-point line. And by the way, Brown became a 3-time ABA All-Star. The team was fairly loaded with talent, and in that first season, the Buccaneers went all the way to the ABA Finals before losing to the Pittsburgh Pipers in 7 games. But things were looking good for them. Unlike most of the teams in the league, the Buccaneers did not need overhauling, just a little bit of tweaking. After all, they had just come in second place in the whole league. But Doug Moe and Larry Brown were traded to the Oakland Oaks prior to that second season, and that left Jimmy Jones and Steve Snapper Jones to carry the load for the Buccaneers, and they made it to the second round of the playoffs before getting knocked out by the Oakland Oaks, the same team where they just sent their 2 best players from the year before. Now, for their third year, things began to fall apart. They finished the season 42-42. Jimmy Jones and Snapper Jones were still their top 2 scorers, but they could not seem to stop the other team, and they missed out on the playoffs that year completely. And, as was the case for nearly every other ABA team, money began to run out and finances became a real issue. When an ABA team was struggling financially, the thing that they almost always did was to relocate, and the Buccaneers were no different. They decided to move to Tennessee, where they became the Memphis Pros. And I'll be right back after the break with what happened to them in Memphis.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
At the Sports History Network, we're all about sports yesteryear, and so we're so pleased to introduce you to Row One, an online memorabilia gallery and shop that brings your sports history to life anywhere. The Row One gallery includes over 5,200 gorgeously reproduced prints of team posters, game program covers, game tickets, advertisements, and more in baseball, pro and college football, pro and college basketball, and more. And any gallery item may be printed in a variety of sizes on wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. And in Row One shop, check out the thousands more of unique items with the retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, phone cases, mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com, ROW1, for access to the full Row One catalog and for gallery prints and gift items, plus get a 15% discount off all prints on the Row One Pictorium Gallery with coupon code SHN15. Follow the link on the show notes.
Hello, sports history fans. I'm Ross from the podcast Pigskin Tales. You're about to jump into another thrilling sports history moment, but first, let's dive into today's sponsor, just in time for the holiday season. Introducing Art of Words, the brainchild of word artist Dan Duffy from Philadelphia. Dan meticulously crafts stunning images by handwriting relevant words from some of the greatest sports moments in time. These unique, budget-friendly illustrations are the perfect gift, sparking cherished memories and capturing hearts. Choose from city skylines, sports, history, and musicians to find a piece for everyone. And here's the exciting part. For that sports fanatic in your life, gift them a piece of their favorite team or player's history. Art of Words tells a compelling story. Explore collegiate stadiums, each meticulously crafted with every football victory etched into words. Or venture into baseball stadiums, handwritten with every player from the team's illustrious history. My favorite on the site is Bryce Harper 2021 MVP year. Because I'm a big stats guy, I think that's one of the coolest things ever. Check it out. Don't wait. Order a print today for yourself and your loved one this holiday season. Transform your wall into a gallery of captivating art and surprise your family and friends with a print of their own. Use code SHN15 at artofwords.com for a 15% discount on your order in November and December. Visit Art of Words, where words magically transform into stunning art, evoking cherished memories and touching the hearts of those who you care about. Again, use the code SHN15 for 15% off at artofwords.com.
Welcome back to the show, and let us continue with the story of the New Orleans Buccaneers. The Memphis Pros. At this point in the team's history, they have been taken over by the league because the owners could no longer afford to run the team. And this never really goes well. When the team is being run by the league office, it is not being run to win. It is being run to survive and hopefully convince a new buyer to come in and take over the team. The team had a losing record and lost in the first round to the Indiana Pacers. Now, Snapper Jones and Jimmy Jones made the move from New Orleans to Memphis and continued to lead the team in scoring, but it simply was not enough. The team was having a lot of financial problems. They stopped printing game programs because hardly anyone attended the games anyway. Anything that they could do to save some money was implemented. By the fifth season, things were really beginning to crash. A whole new set of players had to come in. There was no longer a dominant scorer on the team. They just had a bunch of guys who were all averaging between 14 and 17 points per game. Now, in some cases, that is a good thing because the defense cannot concentrate on any one player. But in this case, it really was just a group of mediocre players. Snapper Jones and Jimmy Jones were gone, and Snapper went to go play with the Dallas Chaparrals, and Jimmy went to the Utah Stars. Now, at this point, it is the summer of 1972, and the NBA started to get really desperate to find an owner to purchase and take over this Memphis team. And here walks in Charlie Finley. He was the eccentric owner of the Oakland A's baseball team, and he loved to hear himself talk, and he loved baseball. Although he was not exactly the greatest businessman or leader. He also owned the Oakland Seals of the National Hockey League, and that team changed its name a few times and finally ceased operations in 1978 when they were known as the Cleveland Barons. Now, it seems that as enthusiastic as Charlie Finley was, all of his teams eventually ran into trouble. The Memphis Pros were no different. When Finley took over, he wanted to start fresh and come up with a new name and new team colors, and he always loved the green and gold of his Oakland A's, so he changed the basketball team's colors to green and gold. In fact, his hockey team was also green and gold. Sometimes it is good to be the owner. But changing the team colors was not enough for Finley. He wanted to change the name of the team as well, and after having a fan contest to rename the team, he chose the name the Tams, T-A-M, with an S for pluralization. Now, what does that even mean? What is a TAM? It is actually an acronym for the states of Tennessee, Arkansas, and Mississippi. The city of Memphis is located right on the Mississippi River across from Arkansas. And from downtown Memphis, you can be in Arkansas with around a 5-minute drive. You can also be in Mississippi in about a 10 to 15-minute drive. It was Finley's hope that the team would draw fans from all 3 states, and he wanted to recognize that as part of the team name. However, even the local fans did not know what a TAM was. Further, Finley went and hired legendary college coach Adolph Rupp to be part of the front office as the president of the Memphis Tams. At least that was his official title. His actual duties were to fly down to Memphis from his home in Lexington, Kentucky, and just sit at the press table and watch the game and chat with the reporters. The expectations were that he fly down to Memphis once or twice per month, and the main thing that Finley wanted out of this was the association of his basketball team with a coaching legend. The entire move was strictly for looks and reputation, but on the court, the team was still in shambles. About the only attention that the team got was from rookie Johnny Newman, who often made the gossip columns as one of Memphis's leading bachelors. In 1973, Charlie Finley decided to hire a new coach in Butch Van Bredekolff, the same coach who took the Lakers to the 1969 NBA Finals. But Van Bredekolff walked into a bad situation. Nearly every coach would agree that no matter how great the coach is, if he doesn't have the talent he needs on that roster, he's not going to go very far. Even John Wooden felt this way about teams. A team cannot win without good players, and the Tams did not have any good players. They missed the playoffs with a 21-63 record. At one point, Finley called the front office and told them that once that call ended, to go ahead and disconnect the phone and sell every piece of furniture that they had. The ABA had had enough of Charlie Finley's ownership. He was a very annoying owner, just rambling at owners' meetings. He would argue for an hour if he did not get the player that he wanted at the draft. He got on everybody's nerves. He was also not paying his share of league expenses, which gave the owners the legal right to just kick him out of the league. That is when ABA Commissioner Mike Storen decided to take over the Memphis team and run it himself with his own money. And that was a bad move on Storen's part. His first act as the new owner of the team was to change that awful name of the Tams. He decided that he would go with the Memphis Sounds to take advantage of the city of Memphis being the home of the blues. Even today, if you go to downtown Memphis to Beale Street, you will see blues club after blues club. And if you like the blues, then Memphis is the place to be. Now, just to make ends meet, Storen contacted soul singer Isaac Hayes to join in as an owner. Storen was excited about the possibility of having the celebrity of Isaac Hayes be part of the organization. But Hayes had a condition. He wanted to be the majority owner. And Storen had no problem with that, because that would mean that Hayes would inherit the majority of the financial responsibility. When Storen showed up at Hayes' house to work out the deal, Hayes handed him $50,000 in cash in a bag. When Storen protested, there was no way that he was going to walk down the streets of Memphis with a bag full of $50,000 in cash. He demanded that Hayes give him a check. Now, Hayes did not have a check because he was already experiencing money problems of his own as his record company was crumbling and his own debts were piling up. Well, so much for having Isaac Hayes be part of the ABA. Now, Mike Storen had no choice but to sell the team to an ownership group from Baltimore who moved the team to that city. And they got to Baltimore in the summer of 1975. The team's entire goal was to make it through the season and hopefully be part of the NBA merger, which was already in discussion between the two leagues. At first, the owners renamed the team the Baltimore Hustlers because they wanted to be known for having players that hustled. But the ABA said that the name might be misinterpreted as a team full of con men, so they changed the name to the Baltimore Claws, and they were going to use a crab as their logo, and that made a lot more sense for a city like Baltimore. However, the new owners ran out of money within the first couple of weeks. They could not sign any new players because they didn't have any money, and the players could not even practice unless they had an active contract. So the players started complaining that they were about to be kicked out of their hotel because the bills were not being paid by the team as agreed upon. They were also not getting their per diem, which is the money that they receive on a daily basis to go out and have something to eat. But just 5 days before what would have been the final season of the ABA, the Baltimore Claws completely folded and ceased operations. The Baltimore team never even played one game. So depending on your perspective, Baltimore was never really part of the ABA since it never actually played a game under that name. But the Baltimore chapter is part of the history of the team and needs to be acknowledged. And that is how a team in 1975 throws away $1 million in just a few weeks. The owners bankrupted themselves in about a month's time as the owner of the team. Well, that is the story of the New Orleans Buccaneers / Memphis Pros / Memphis Tams / Memphis Sounds / Baltimore Hustlers / Baltimore Claws. That is 6 names in just 8 years. Now, as I mentioned in a previous episode, that is why when I was a kid, I thought that the ABA had around 30 different teams in their league. And it was actually only just 12, but they kept relocating and changing their name, so it just seemed like there were way more teams than there really were. So that's it for today. Join us next time when we share the story of one of the most hyped up high school players of all time. Rarely has a high school player drawn attention from nearly every university around and a few professional teams. And no, I am not talking about LeBron James. I am talking about Louis Alcindor, better known as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That's next time on Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network, the headquarters of Sports Yesteryear. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com to find out more about this and other sports history podcasts. If you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts. And check out our page on Facebook. It's called Basketball History 101 Podcast. There you will find shorter historical posts as well as comments and discussion starters on today's game. I will announce there when new episodes come out. I want to thank my producer and editor, Jacob Loayza. Join us each week as we continue to mine the history of basketball for more great stories in the past. Take care and see you soon.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, aka the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, you know, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.